So, I think the topic is where I want to focus on is this on the business concept, right? And working on the business is really centered around how it is that you go about applying an effort to do the things, do the activities, make the calls, whatever, however you want to think of it, right? To create the opportunities that lead to what you're working in the business with, which would then be out, you've got a client, you're in the business now, you're showing them homes, you're writing offers, you're going to inspections, things of that nature. Um, I want to kind of more so spend this time conceptually on the business and how to go about creating opportunities. And I think how I'll introduce this, how I'm thinking about it, is first of all to explain that lead generation as a term is something that's so widely used in this industry and in this company. It's just everywhere, and it's a general sales term, right? But it kind of, I'm kind of looking to like debunk using the term lead generation from here. And the reason is that it just provides a lot of intimidation. It doesn't offer a lot of clarity. If anything, the clarity that you would think that is offered by it is misleading and not true because it implies like go out and do these activities and you'll generate a lead, right? And like go out and make calls, and at the other end of that will be all these leads. And not to be negative, but Lyria, like everybody's kind of, if I don't mind calling everybody out, but like John and Aaron, you're brand new at this. Lyria, you've been doing it for a little bit now, and kind of experiencing that hurdle to jump over, right? To where it's like, what you're describing, if you don't mind if I speak for you and chime in here to clarify, but it's just like, man, I've been doing things and where's the results? And rightfully so, I get it. And you should be feeling that sort of pressure to it overall, right? But like it does start with okay, doing things, not to have that sound negatively, but can you turn activities and what you're doing, what you're working on, who you're contacting, who you're talking to, what open houses you're hosting, what doors you're knocking out, whatever it is, but whatever activity it is, can you turn that into leads? Seems to be the way that the industry wants to think about how this business works. And yeah, bluntly put, that's the way it needs to work in terms of what you invest in yourself to go about this business, having it turn into results of leads and people to work with and people to get under contract and have accepted offers with, right?
Hey, excuse me.
Yeah,
I'm I'm sorry. I didn't. This is John. I didn't see a way to raise my hand, but
that's okay. Jumping right in, so fire away.
so I kind of missed the beginning. Can I ask what did she say she was doing so far that she felt wasn't working or she wasn't getting the best results from?
Her and I had a meeting prior to this where we kind of dove into to some things, one-on-one wise. But overall, she's got a social media activities. She's got kind of the old school, like let me reach out to my people and talk to them and various different things. We didn't get too in depth, but Leary, if there's anything you want to clarify, feel free along the way here. And I think ultimately I'll conceptualize here for a bit, and then I can like help each of you with like actually how to do this.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Leary, anything you want to add
Yeah,
to
so I did, yeah, so you're right. We didn't dive into anything too deep. So I just told him like the market stats. I have a market Mondays that I put on like all of my stories on social media. I have about 2 hours designated for my command, just going through, calling my sphere of Spirit Circle. If I did an open house that week, I'm following up with whoever I had an open house with. And I kind of told him too, what I'm seeing lately is that a lot of people were represented already. Just also in my neighborhood, I live around a lot of older adults. So I've just been introducing myself to my neighborhood, to my neighbors, offering them like, just what I'm seeing in the area, things of that nature. But I was just telling him like some of the pipeline just is a lot longer. The process is a lot longer. I don't get A-ready clients necessarily. So it's just a lot longer for me.
Thanks for sharing. Um, Conceptually, and again, I'm going to work this through to where we'll talk conceptually, and I'm going to kind of give you some examples as to how to actually go about what I'm talking about. Conceptually speaking, my, what I kind of want you to, as to how to, what I want you to look at, or how to look at lead generation, how to think of what lead generation is and how it plays out. I want you to delete lead generation from your memory. Like if I could be Will Smith in Men in Black and like wave that wand and have it zapped from a word or a term that you ever heard before, I would. And I think it would be beneficial for a lot of real estate agents. And the reason is because it implies like, okay, go out and do this and you'll generate a lead right now. And that's a really tough type of it's really tough to do that in this business. I'm just going to be blunt. Versus changing the outcome, right? Changing the result to focus on and to instead go out and socially generate or social generation, but ultimately just socialize, just communicate, just be somebody that is out there communicating with their community or socializing with their community. And community can be defined as whatever you want to define it as. It can be your 20 people that you're close with, or all of Monroe County, or somewhere in between with a database of relationships that maybe it's 3, 4, or 500 people that you then task yourself with social generation effort to go out and communicate that ultimately, one, you're a good person, and two, you're their real estate resource when they need it. And if you do that consistently, you know, just week in and week out with different people, you don't need to communicate 52 times a year with every single person in your world. Gary Keller, the millionaire real estate agent model, says the magic happens when you're directly communicating with people 4 times a year, right? So to find a way to be in social interaction with everybody that you need or that you know or that you want to know or that you want to be in relationship with for the purpose of them, understanding that you're their real estate resource. It only takes 4 times a year to do that. Now, it's mindset shift from like just how to go about lead generation and getting in your mindset that like it shouldn't be about the outcome or the result of I just applied some effort and now I have a lead, but rather that it's about I just applied some effort and I, you know, did some activities or I made some calls or I went to this networking event, whatever it is, and I socialized, I interacted, I communicated with, 12 people today. And that's being the result that you can control. That's what really matters. And from the standpoint of how to approach the business, it's that way to where it's control what you can control. And really, all you can control in this business is how many people can you get into conversation with today? How many people can you socialize with today? How many people can you interact with today or this week? That's the baseline of how to, develop a healthy practice to this business, right? From the standpoint of if you're in communication with people consistently, eventually you get cemented as the person that they think of for all things real estate. And if you continue to saturate and communicate with them consistently for the rest of your career, like that saturation will lead to them really not having a choice but to think of you when they actually need something in real estate. And that's the game that we're playing. Understand that, like, in this business, like to be successful in this business, by definition, you're playing a game to where as many people as you can get to remember you as their real estate resource. That's your job. So to kind of shift gears mentally to where you're thinking of how to approach that from the standpoint of let me just socialize with people versus let me go out and I gotta ultimately socialize in order to get a lead. I find it to be a powerful mindset trick, so to speak, or just a not even a trick, just a mindset reality, because now you're going out and doing the activity, applying the effort in a more refined and clarified manner, and something that's more attainable and less intimidating and a lot less failure associated with it because it's just a matter of like all I gotta do is socialize. All I gotta do is be a good person. All I gotta do is communicate, not the pressure of like, okay, I I got you on the phone and like, how do I figure out whether you're a lead or not? One, people don't want to be treated that way, right? People don't want to be sold to. And if they catch a sniff of that from you, it may set you back for future contacts to make or future social interactions with them, right? So now their guard's up, kind of like, I know why he's calling me. Versus just being, a good, warm person to your community. And on the topic of warm versus cold, I think a lot of this comes from this, just the overall opinion, and this gets kind of fluffy, and I don't mean to put on a tinfoil hat or anything like that, but you know, consumer behavior has changed a lot in the last decade at most, to where like people are kind of cold at this point for a lot of different reasons. We don't need to get into them because there's just so many. Whatever you're thinking is the reason why. There's also 10 other reasons. Okay. But just, financially, these things have really done a lot towards that, right? And then the social media scrolling type of, like that's how people think that they're socializing at this point. Like you don't have to actually communicate with somebody. You can just see that, oh wow, they went on a cruise last week and good for them and looks like they had a great time. And there's no interaction that happened, but somehow you feel like socially you just connected with that person that you saw went on a cruise with their family, even though you didn't communicate and connect directly with them at all. That's led to this cold type of description that I'm putting on society right now. And again, I don't mean to be like negative or conspiracy theory or anything like that. I'm just speaking to an opportunity that you can capitalize on if you understand how to go build an actionable strategy as a result of what the opportunity is. And this concept of just like we're in a position where I feel like direct communication is primed for a comeback. And if you're going to lead that charge with your community, your people, and again, community can be defined as all of Monroe County or the 30 people that you're close with. But if you're going to go out and lead a charge to socialize, you're going to see a benefit from that over time. Because also don't forget that like we operate in an industry that people actually want to talk about. So when you're now being a leader in your community and bringing, warmth to it, again, I realize it's kind of fluffy. For those of you who don't know me, I have this like, fluffy football coach type of vibe, I guess. I don't know. But take advantage of this, just this feeling that's out there, right? But more so like take advantage of a mindset to allow you to actually go out and do these activities. Because when it's just like, okay, go sit down and lead generate today, and then you make your first 10 calls and there's no leads at the end of it, it's really tough to make the 11th and 12th and 13th call or whatever you need to do. But when you're sitting down to do that, it's just like, I just got to, be friendly. There's a different energy that'll be applied. I'll give you some actual insight as to how to go about doing this next. But does anybody have any questions about the concept of this?
No, this is good.
Cool. So conceptual to actual, right? Like at the end of the day, you can learn everything there is to learn out there. And if you don't actually, implement actions and strategies around it, nothing happens other than you improved your knowledge. So, take this, what do you know so far, right? Like, okay, how do I conceptualize just being social versus having to go out and get leads from my people? How do I conceptualize that? Like, okay, there's a certain level of, you know, socially people have gone more cold than they are on fire right now. How do I go about implementing something around this? Before I dive into it, I want you to always think in this manner of like going from conceptually to actually and kind of follow this order of things, right? It's like if there's a concept that you're trying to implement, how do you get to a place where you understand it? You have enough knowledge on it, you have confidence to be able to go position yourself, whether it be as the expert or just somebody that can speak to it, or somebody that's willing to get into action around it. Like you got to start there and spend some time like in the lab, so to speak, or just from the standpoint of research and development, right? But like spend some time with the concept itself in order to make sure that you've got enough of a base to be able to get into action with it. From there, you need to ask yourself, like, what is the, so I'm going to try not to say lead generation, right? But prior to today, what is the lead generation strategy that comes from it? And what is the marketing strategy that can come from it? Okay. So everything that you do, if you, or everything that you learn, or every hot button topic that's out there, or every, just every concept, if you could turn it into, let's just say, a conversational strategy or tactic, or a social strategy or tactic, and also a marketing strategy or tactic. Think that way for yourself and your business from here to be able to turn things into and let's like things, right? Like any market data, market stats, any news stories, any trends, any pulse of the market, right? Like if you can take that and then turn it into social strategies and actions and marketing strategies and actions, like now you're cooking with gas. Okay. So on the concept of people have gone cold, you need to socialize as your job, not lead generate. You need to social generate. How do I go about that? Well, first would be to like think of your database and think of all the segments or categories of how you could separate your people, right? And think about all the commonalities that exist between you and your database, or just what commonalities you can find amongst your database. And this could be, just like groups of people based, right? So for example, like any alumni groups or networks, any, the same people from a past job or current job, or one side of the family and the other side of the family, and the different kind of cliques of groups of friends that you have, right? And even if it's throughout the years or current, but how can you organize your people in a manner that is segmented based on, the group that they're a part of, or where, the group that they were a part of. But then also take it a step further to where, what if it were organized by common interests as well? Common hobbies, common, walks of life, right? So like if you walk your dog along the canal every weekend and you know of other people that have a dog that walk it as well, and you start a dog walking segment of your database, right? And that turns into like a group that builds, or at least maybe you sprinkle something into a newsletter marketing wise to that segment of people that would appreciate it. Maybe you play basketball. You could kind of really like check multiple kill two birds with one stone, right? Because if there's goals that you have around your physical health and you like playing basketball and you want to play more basketball and you also have goals around how many people you need to communicate with per week. Well, if you went out and joined two basketball leagues per week and all of a sudden you're, socializing with 30 different people that get, added to your database over time and you see them every week, and then the league dies out for the season and you're in the off season and you find a way to communicate with those same people, once a quarter until the league starts back up again. That's lead generation. All that playing out, playing basketball, communicating with them there, and then, everything I described. But we don't apply like purpose to that. Because I can make the argument that you could go and build a plan for your business that's strictly around, what do you want to do, right? Like, what do you enjoy doing from a hobby standpoint, for example? And you can go out and build a quote unquote lead generation plan around those hobbies that put you in front of other people where you're now socializing and interacting and building a database with those people and then and just quote unquote staying in touch. If you do that enough times, week in and week out, and just quote unquote stay in touch with enough people, I'll bet on a fair amount of results in this business. Now, here's where it really gets good. If you're doing that, plus you're attempting to offer some sort of value to their real estate world while you're in those interactions, wherever relevant, I'll really bet on you at that point. Now, what I'm not saying is like, okay, the basketball example, and you're showing up with a clipboard with a sign-in sheet to try to get their information and sign up for a free CMA type of thing at your basketball night. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you can. It's just uncomfortable for most people, and therefore you won't. And also, you do have a risk associated with like, that salesy type of opinion that people may have of you if you do that. However, if you're in a social interaction with somebody, just understand that one, like people want to talk about real estate. You have that unique advantage for your career. You're in an industry that people actually want to talk to you about for a whole variety of reasons. Uh, you know, there's nobody out there who isn't interested in shelter, right? Not one person out there who can tell me like, no, I really don't like shelter. I don't need that. It's not something that's important to me. I'm okay with being homeless. Not to be extreme with it, but right. So you have that advantage, right? And then there just becomes a whole, like there's just an array of very interesting topics within the real estate or within the shelter industry, I should say, that interest people, right? Whether it be investing in wealth building or flipping homes or kitchen remodels or, financing terms and trends and just all of it. So what's going to happen when you're socializing is that, you know, People tend to be reciprocal. Good people tend to be reciprocal, right? So if you're the one that is interacting with them and leading them in a social setting, there tends to become a point where it's like, hey, this person's asking me about everything. How do I reciprocate? And then they're going to ask you something. And if you think of it this way, like most people have to do a memory jogger of sorts, and that's okay, right? But when they're going through and it's like, what the heck? They said, what the hell does he do? Oh yeah, he's in real estate. Yeah, how's the market? Like that's the process that plays out. Boom, and now you're in the driver's seat. Now they want to talk about what you're selling. Even if they don't, even if it's small talk, but they're interested to talk, right? At that point. They're giving you the opportunity to talk about what something that you got going on from a reciprocal standpoint. Here's the perspective I want to add to this. No offense to anybody who sells insurance or has sold insurance or has any family that does. I've said this a bunch before, but like be lucky you don't sell insurance because in that what I just described, nobody is coming back to people that sell insurance. Be like, yeah, how's insurance? Like people run from that conversation. You're never going to be, you're very rarely going to be at a cocktail party as an insurance salesperson and have people, shoot the breeze with you and like, tell me about insurance. So you have an advantage to take it to capitalize on. Now, here's like a place to get yourself to, right? Is to have something that you're prepared to talk about all the time, right? Like some sort of theme or concept or topic or response, right? So like you should have a response to how's the real estate market? Because that'll be kind of the token question that you're going to get, right? Or how's real estate? How's business? How's the market? Have a response for that. But also, if you end up with people that actually do want you to kind of like flex, right, and show them what you got, so to speak, is the mindset to be in on this. You should have some sort of a concept or topic prepared to really to flex on, to show your expertise on, to show that you're active, show that you know what you're talking about, show that you have experience, to show that you're paying attention, show that you care. I'll give you an example. Like always look, again, like look at the market, look at the trends, look at the news, look at what's hot, look at stats, etc. Right? Like right now, what's hot in real estate is talk about a 50-year mortgage. So at minimum, you should be aware of that topic and be able to speak to it and have some sort of response tailored to if you are, out and about socializing or making this effort to be in social interactions that, you know, you can respond to it and you have something that's professional and or at least professional from the standpoint of again showing that you're knowledgeable, showing that you care, showing that you have some context as to what's going on. And if you want to go further with it from there, like it'll be based on the conversation that's playing out. But be in a position where you can actually show or attempt to show value to the real estate world wherever possible versus just, how's the market? Good, crazy. And that's it. Like that doesn't really, when you're dry and boring and don't have much to say, they're probably not going to want to work with you uh, when they actually need something. Questions, thoughts? Another way to go about this, like social generation. So, like, the concept of, okay, go out and make calls, right? Because it's one thing to think of social generation from the standpoint of, okay, what rooms can I put myself in? What networks can I put myself in? What groups, etc., right? That allow me to in person interact with people at mass. Another element of it is like, okay, I need to be making calls, need to make contacts. Well, when you're wondering how to go about do that, like same concept applies. If you have, you know, segments of groups within your database, right? Couple of real specific examples that have kind of they're just top of mind for me because I've helped agents with them in the past week or so on this topic. Um, one of them is well, it's hunting season. I'm not a hunter, but somebody that was helping with this is, and talking about the hunting they're doing this time of year, and I was talking to them like, okay, I assume you got a whole bunch of hunting buddies as well, or there are people in your database that also hunt. Yep. Okay, well, same time of year for them too, right? Yep. So it's all relevant, right? Like everybody's in the same boat. Like you guys, this is like your Super Bowl right now, right? I would assume, and this gets dangerous, but I would assume that this type of personality probably isn't, outbound, communicating with you directly or anybody or, most other people that are outside of their tight knit circles, right? No. Right. Well, what if you were the person that led that charge? What would happen if next time you're in your tree stand or whatever, you shoot a buck and you text your other people, hey, I finally got one, or hey, how about this weather? Or, hey, did you get anything yet? And you go through your hunting segment in your database and make contacts happen like that, just to socialize about a shared common interest. Another example was somebody who likes basketball. We've talked about that a couple times because it came up with the like, okay, play basketball more. Perfect. That helps me physically, and also that's cool. I didn't think of it that way in terms of how it benefits my business, but came on. But also just you know, it doesn't have to be unique necessarily. Like this person like NBA fan, pro basketball, right? And I think NBA is a little different than say the NFL and football, right? To where it's like football and the Bills kind of become more like you can talk to most anybody about that, right? Not everybody wants to talk to somebody or anybody about the NBA and basketball. Well, this person had enough people in their database where they could kind of segment that out. And now it's like, go lead the charge and just, hey, how about them Celtics? When the Celtics are playing the Lakers, like text your Lakers buddies and hey, you're going down tonight because that that's again the coldness, so to speak, of people. It that's not happening as often as it could, I guess. And if you're going to be the leader to that, like good things will happen because you're causing a memory for people. And that's the job at the end of the day, in terms of like your job is to go out and communicate and interact with as many people as possible in order to be remembered. And in order to be remembered that you are their real estate resource. Now, it's a lot of like rhetoric this time of year around business planning and developing a plan and having a plan, things of that nature. My what I encourage you to, in terms of how to approach, like, okay, I need a plan for my business. I encourage you to think of it as what is it that's going to, what strategies do I have that I can commit to that lead me into action to socialize and start small. If you go to, any sort of business planning clinic or class or anything like that, in KW world, they're going to train you on a 135 or a GPS. And I'm for it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's something that everybody should have and work to. But I think when, ultimately a 135 business plan is the template that's most commonly trained on here. That's 15 specific, measurable, attainable, repeatable, and time-bound strategies. 15 of them that you're following over the course or implementing over the course of a year. And in my opinion, don't get me wrong, if you have the capacity to do that and you end up with 15 commitments that you're willing to make to yourself, game on. What I find is that's a struggle for most. And especially, this is you're newer at this. It's really going to be a struggle to go out and figure out what it is that should be on that plan one, but also having enough clarity and comfort and confidence to attack it in a manner where it's like an actual commitment that's going to get done. So build a plan that is more so just focused on like, here are the commitments I'm willing to make on a weekly, ongoing basis or consistent basis, whatever you define that as, that lead me into social interactions. That's what a plan should be filled with.